Hey everybody, I'm Joe and we're talking about the Marvel Multiverse TTRPG game today, and as always we're talking about it as of Rules Update 1.3, and I've got some things to talk about regarding things that are quite possibly overpowered in the playtest document and in the Rules Update that I hope get addressed and looked at when the final game is published. Here we go. So what do we mean when we say that something is overpowered in a TTRPG? To me, it can't just mean that it is a powerful feature, because as a game master, I should be able to create appropriate challenges for my players at any point along a game. And not only that, but I want the characters in my games, either that I play in or that I run as a game master, to feel powerful. So what do we mean? And I think it's not just that something is powerful, it is that it is more powerful than other viable options. Here's what I mean by this. When we take a look at some kind of a mechanic, be it a superpower in Marvel Multiverse or a spell in a classic fantasy TTRPG, we have a choice to take it or something else. And what we want out of game design is for all of the choices presented in front of us to feel like good, viable options. And we make our choices based on a theme or an idea that we have of the character we are trying to create. But what happens if one choice is obviously superior to the other ones? What happens if we take a look at a variety of choices and one of them is noticeably better and more useful in a broader variety of circumstances, or does substantively more damage than other options? At that point, it becomes almost a mistake to take something else. Here's one example of this. Imagine a 5th edition D&D Warlock not taking Eldritch Blast. This is the best damage dealing cantrip in the game, especially with a Warlock that gets to add Invocation. So why is it that Warlock players may not take Eldritch Blast? There's really only two reasons. The first is they're tired of Warlocks that rely on Eldritch Blast and actively work against type, or they've made a mistake and we question the Warlock player who doesn't take Eldritch Blast. And that is because it is so much better than other viable options for that character. Imagine a wizard that doesn't take Counterspell. This is why it is common in D&D for people to say that Wish is not an overpowered spell. It's the most powerful spell in the game, but you have to wait for 9th level spells to be able to cast it, and it feels appropriate. Meanwhile, we say that Silvery Barbs is overpowered because it is a 1st level spell, and 1st level spell slots are things that we get in abundance relatively early. So we don't have the full Marvel Multiverse game yet, but we have 3 rules updates and we have the playtest material, and the question before us today is there something like this in Marvel Multiverse? Is there something that is too powerful relative to other options you get at the same point in the game? And I believe the answer is yes, and I believe that there are 2 things that I would alter in order to make them more reasonable choices relative to other things in the game. Now, I would like to point out that actually I believe that most of the damage dealing abilities are actually very well balanced. Damage scales automatically in this game, as I've talked about in previous videos, and we have a regular mechanic for something doing damage, doing double damage on a fantastic success, or attacking multiple targets and doing half damage. And these things all end up being relatively appropriate to each other. Not only that, but since the bonuses to our damage multipliers do not stack, you get a relatively clean progression in your damage output. So most of the game actually balances very nicely for characters who are going after a variety of themes, and that is what we want out of the game. But there are 2 things that I believe are just too good to pass up. To not take them almost feels like a mistake. And the first one is sadly one of my favorite things in the game, and that's combat trickery. So combat trickery, you knew I had to talk about. It immediately allows for a roll to bypass all trouble and become a fantastic success after you roll. And this is something that allows any character to spike damage whenever they want. And it pairs with powers that are able to do incredible damage or are able to do debilitating conditions or both. Now I know that combat trickery can only be used once per battle, but if you take a look at the builds that I've done on this channel for characters, then you'll notice I don't need to use it more than once per battle. It spikes damage so much, particularly at mid and late game. I don't need it to do more damage. And it also has pretty much no prerequisites. It's a utility power, so you don't need to purchase your way into a power set in order to take it. And it also has no rank prerequisites either. You can pick this up at rank 1 and immediately start spiking damage higher than other characters. As a result, it feels like a mistake to not take it on any character that is combat oriented. So is there a way to work with combat trickery that keeps it in the game? Because I like the mechanic, but makes it something that feels either like you have to put more effort into the choice to take it, or maybe makes it something that you have to take other prerequisites to be able to get. I believe that I would recommend combat trickery being in the Tactical Mastery power set. Tactical Mastery is all about manipulating the battlefield and manipulating the circumstances that you're in and being able to change the tide of battle. And it's filled with amazing powers that don't do damage in and of themselves, but just make the battlefield work in your favor. And I believe this fits inside of that concept. If you made it a power in Tactical Mastery, people would have to purchase their way in to the Tactical Mastery power set in order to take it. And I would not leave it with no prerequisites, because you would be able to take surprising power as a trait and be able to pick it up without purchasing your way in. If this had one prerequisite inside of Tactical Mastery, I think that that would be just fine. But as it stands, we really feel that we need to take this power in order to do really substantive damage. And if you are playing in this game and someone else has this power and you don't, you're going to feel like you made a mistake, and we don't want that in a game. The other power that I believe should be altered when the final game is published is Attack Stance, found in the Martial Arts power set. Now, this power is not in my list of most powerful things in the game because, frankly, I made a mistake. So when I was putting that video together, I made a mistake. I looked at the way that Attack Stance was worded inside of the playtest rulebook, and I missed the adjustment that was made in a rules update. And now the Attack Stance power doubles your rank for the purposes of calculating damage. So let's compare this to the way that we would spike the damage from an agility-based character with the accuracy powers. The accuracy powers are going to add 1, 2, 3, and eventually 4 to your damage multiplier, and then that gets added to your rank for purposes of calculating damage. And you need to take this 4 times because there's accuracy 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are iterations of this for melee-based characters and ego-based characters, but we'll just focus on accuracy since they're all worded the same way. So accuracy 1 gives you a 1 damage multiplier. Remember, damage multipliers do not stack, so this would replace one from perhaps a weapon, and then it would be added to your rank. You can take accuracy 1 at rank 1, accuracy 2 at rank 2, so forth and so on. This means if you invest in accuracy as much as you can, you would take accuracy 1, 2, 3, and 4 at ranks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your damage multipliers then would at rank 1 be a 2, at rank 2 be a 4, at rank 3 be a 6, at rank 4 be an 8, but then accuracy ends at accuracy 4. So at rank 5, you would have a damage multiplier of a 9, and at rank 6, you'd have a multiplier of a 10. Now, that is taking 4 powers in order to spike your damage. But what happens if you take attack stance right away at rank 1? Attack stance has no prerequisites except for being in the martial arts power set, and it effectively doubles your rank for the purposes of calculating damage. So let's take a look at what your damage multiplier would be if you took attack stance at rank 1. It's pretty simple to calculate because you're just doubling your rank. So with attack stance at rank 1, you'd have a multiplier of 2. At rank 2, you'd have a multiplier of 4. At rank 3, it would be a 6. At 4, it'd be an 8. And here is where it gets better than taking the accuracy powers, because at rank 5, you'd be a multiplier of 10, and at rank 6, a multiplier of 12. So it always is as good, if not better, than taking a subsequent amount of powers that would spike your particular damage output. There are a couple reasons why attack stance is even better. First, it doesn't care what type of an attack you make. What if you've built a character that can make agility and ego-based attacks? Well, with the accuracy powers and feat chain, it would only apply to your attacks that are made using agility, not so for the purpose of attack stance. But the real reason why attack stance is so much better is that it automatically saves you 3 powers that you have to take, right? So with the accuracy feat chain, you need to take 4 powers, and you're investing in it pretty heavily. With attack stance, you only need to take it once, and you can do this without even getting into the martial arts power set. Since attack stance does not have a prerequisite, it's just in the martial arts power set, if you took surprising power as your trait at rank 1, you'd be able to take the attack stance power and not even be in martial arts. And the only thing you gain from the accuracy feat chain is that you get a boost to any ability checks, not damage, that are made using agility when you have the accuracy powers. You don't get that from attack stance, but that bonus only goes up to a +4. And in the meantime, with attack stance, we have saved the ability to add 3 additional powers to our character. As a result, attack stance is just something that does so much. Now, in the original playtest design, you had to use an easy action to go into attack stance, but easy actions are gone. They're not part of the game anymore. So now it is free to go into your attack stance, and it doesn't interfere with anything else in your action economy. So you want a really good way of hacking damage? There you go. Get into attack stance using surprising power with any character, and it's automatically going to boost your damage substantively and save you a lot of powers that you need to take. You can use those spots to increase your defenses, perhaps with evasion or brawling or integrity, or perhaps building up your damage reduction with the armor powers. The last point I'll make about attack stance is it's totally asymmetrical. If we take a look at the defense stance, all that this does is immediately give trouble to any attacks coming in until the first one hits. And that is the kind of small boost that I would expect from a power with very low prerequisites. Attack stance is not like that. It does enormous scaling for your damage. If attack stance simply gave you an automatic edge on your attacks using agility or your melee, that would be fine, and it would make sense for the beginning of a feat chain. If we wanted to keep it doing this much damage output, we have to give more prerequisites inside of the martial arts power set for this to feel appropriate. As it is, it's basically a hack to scale your damage. Overall, the Marvel Multiverse game actually has a lot of balance to it, and playing it, you do have the ability to build a character that does a big variety of things, and you don't have to worry about damage scaling all that much. And I think that's the sign of good game design, but there are these couple things that I think should be altered in the final game design. Is this your experience with the game? Is there anything that you would like to see altered in these or in other powers? I think we'd all like to hear in the comments below. In the meantime, thanks for joining me today. YouTube is literally made out of buttons. I hope you press some of them, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.